Hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about setting up basically it's a game prototype or something like that with WebSockets. We're going to do it on a remote server using AWS. That's Amazon Web Services. That's the big player with this kind of thing, hosting your little web app or whatever. Okay, and I was following this tutorial, but they only do this on their local system. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine because that's a good first step, but you really haven't accomplished anything just by doing it on your local system, right? So we got to get this working remotely. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to use some of their code here from GitHub. That's actually, so if you want more explanation of their code, I would recommend this video. I'll put it in the description. It is a good video and good tutorial. They've got their GitHub. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to create today. So this is not local. This is on a remote server that has a domain name attached to it. No SSL yet, but it's working. So we've got, you want to click on new game. If you click on join game, I think the whole thing crashes if you do it without something correct in here. So that's a bug that we need to fix at some point. But then you have to go in the console to get this ID for the game. Then we can join the game. Now I can go on a different computer and do this. This is on the web. Doesn't matter that I happen to be in the same browser window here, but we can join the same game here. And it's not going to work until we have 3 players. Once it does, then I don't need this anymore. But the first player is the red player, so I can click a button. Second player is green. Now I'm in the second tab here. And it's going to propagate to all of these. And third player is blue. And there it's in all of them. So this is the basic thing that we are making today. Yeah, so we're going to copy some of this stuff. You could clone this, but actually it has a lot more stuff. So anyway, so let's start by making a directory. So I am going to make this work on the local system first, okay? But rather than doing like they did with a full tutorial, we're just going to copy in the code and make sure it works locally first. So let's just call this WebSocket tut, something like that. You can decide. Oh yeah, I'm using WSL here, so yeah. So okay, you've got a couple options. If you're on Windows, you can install WSL and do what I'm doing. That's a good option. Or we're going to be using NodeJS, so you could do that in some other Windows C way, like using VS Code or Visual Studio, and just look online how to set up Node.js. I'm not going to go through the whole description of it. Basically, sudo apt install Node.js was good enough for me. If you're on Mac, you could do that with brew. Yeah, getting Node.js set up is pretty easy if you have a package manager, but it's not really the point of the tutorial here today. Oh, also, sudo apt install, you're going to want to do npm as well. Okay, so npm is the package manager for Node. Okay, so we've got nothing in here. I'm going to start by let's just do the index HTML. And so the way to copy this without cloning is to click on it and click on raw. And then you can Control A, copy the whole thing, go over here, right click to paste in WSL, make sure you're on the insert. Actually, you know what, that made it weird. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm actually going to take this and we'll curl this. So there's, yeah, nothing here. So let's curl, paste the URL into index.html. This should work fine. Yeah. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the index.js. Just here. And again, give their channel some love because, yeah, because I'm using their code. Okay, so paste that one into index.js. Okay, Now that's all we need, because these other two files will be created by npm, I guess. Node.js will create it. So I'm going to do npm init y. Now, of course, we're going to do this again later on the remote machine. It's just good to check that things work locally first. So npm init y. Or you could skip ahead if you just want to skip straight to the remote, doing it remotely. But I think it's good to do it locally first. So yeah, we did that, and we're going to do npm install websocket. Then I'm going to do npm install express, because this app uses express as well. Okay, once that's done, I'll clear ls, and we've got the package lock.json, package.json, the node modules. Okay, so what we can try to do now is just to do node index.js and see if that works. It says listening on port. It says it uses two different ports for the WebSocket stuff, but yeah, we're gonna go to localhost 9091. Localhost 9091. Okay, now this is slightly buggy, and hopefully in the future we can do better. Yeah, you know, if you want to see what I do in the future, you can subscribe. You can go to my Twitch, because I've been live streaming my work on this stuff. But yeah, if we just hit join game, don't do that. I think it crashes, which is not good. You're supposed to hit new game first and then get this from the console, which is also kind of weird. You know, we could do better than that. Anyway, we'll copy that in, paste it, join game, and there we go. And so we can, to test this with the WebSockets, we can open it up on another tab, paste, join game. Okay, now it's got the two IDs here. And these are just kind of like randomly made IDs. They're not like your IP or something like that. And so you can see it's not working, which happens because this software is buggy. Join game. Oh, there you go. Now it came up. And does it come up for the others? Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is, ignore this. This is actually on my website that's working. I was playing this with somebody in my stream. So, yeah. All right, so now this worked. Like I said, it's a little buggy. I don't know why, but you can see that it is working. If I click here, it shows up in the other one. If I click here, oh, it's blue now. But yeah, it came up. Okay, so that is working the way it's supposed to right here locally. And that was pretty darn easy to set up, wasn't it? So, and yeah, if you want to understand the code, do go to the their YouTube channel and watch that tutorial. But now we're going to do it on AWS, and this is a bit complicated, I warn you, but that's the way programming is sometimes. Okay, so if you don't have an AWS account, you're going to want to set that up. I'm not going to show that here because it's pretty straightforward. You will need a phone number for that. I don't remember if you need a credit card, but you might need that too. Anyway, so once you have it set up, AWS has a lot of different services here. We're going to use EC2. This is kind of their, it's the top one that comes up. This is the first thing that you kind of want to learn about AWS if you're new to it. So I'm going to click on instances here. You can do that here too. I already have a few up. We're going to make a new one. And so there's a lot of options here. I am going to do Ubuntu Server 20.04 here. It's free tier eligible. Some details in this tutorial will be specific to this. So you do want to just, at least for now, while you're following this tutorial, you do want to choose the same one as me, I think. And I'm going to stick with this one here. There's more details, but we can just review and launch at this point. Now it is going to, yeah, we're going to set up a security group in a second and make this a little more secure and all that. And let's see here. Yeah, we can launch, and then it's going to ask you for your what you want to do here. I'm going to make a new one so that, well, for the purpose of this tutorial, actually. So let's call it whatever you want, honestly. Just call it whatever you want. download key pair. And save file. It's going to come up here. We're going to open it in the containing folder. I'm just going to drag it to the desktop for now. Yeah. We just need this, okay, to SSH into the server. I'm going to hit launch. It already did that. What happened? Why is it repeating? I don't know. It's got this one. Acknowledge, launch. It is going to take a little bit of time. It takes like a minute or so. But where can we go here? Just click here, I guess. And we're at this EC2 instances place. Okay, so when you're here, always look for this filter thing, because you'll be like, oh, where are my other instances? Well, it's got this filter here. And normally, when you just open it normally, it has a filter for running. So if you ever stop an instance, it will kind of disappear. So yeah, keep in mind these kind of filters that appear automatically sometimes. So I can click here. The first thing I want to do is always to name it, because that's kind of useful to have a name. So you can name it whatever you want. Again, tutorial, whatever. I'm just doing that so it's obvious you can name anything you want there. Okay, so we want to set up the security settings here. It's kind of important. So it created its own security group. If you're doing multiple things where you had the same security, you could like reuse these, obviously. We're going to edit the inbound rules here. Now I'm going to do something off screen here at the end, which is to click here and say for my IP here. But I'm going to do that at the end. For now, let's add the rule. We're going to want HTTP. Where is that? Here. Okay, we're going to add another rule for HTTPS. Okay. In this tutorial today, I'm not setting up the SSL certificates that you would need for HTTPS. It can be fairly straightforward. Maybe I'll make a different tutorial on that, but we're not doing that today. You're probably going to want that because sometimes in the browser, when you go to a domain and they don't have it set up, like here it says not secure, sometimes you can't access. I don't know why sometimes you can't access it and sometimes you can. I'm not clear on that, but anyway, these days, it's good to get that set up, but that's kind of beyond the scope of the tutorial today. So if I recall, I think this is good enough. For SSH, I would highly recommend that you click here on my IP, because, you know, random bots on the internet will try to hit up your SSH and try to hack. I think it's unlikely that they'll ever be able to hack you because the keys are going to be important. I just think it's an extra measure of security that's very easy to do and really going to improve the security of your system here. So I'd recommend doing that. And I guess we need to, do we need to set these? I think this will automatically set it. No. I think this is fine. I don't know. Can somebody tell me the difference? What's the difference between this and this? I honestly don't know. I think both of them set it so that any IP address can access these items. So we'll save that. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the instances here. And let's see here. So there is a thing to SSH here in the browser. I never do this. It actually gives you these instructions. I think you can in the browser. I just don't do this. I don't think it's convenient. So we're going to do this from the command line, of course. All right, so it's giving us a public IP address here. Now, obviously we're going to want a static IP. We don't want this to be changing all the time. Okay, so we're going to do that right now. Basically, you go down here. It's really easy to set up. Click on Elastic IPs. Okay, you're just going to click here, allocate, and just scroll down, allocate. It's going to make a new one. Again, there's this filter here. I'm going to click, make sure it's selected, the one that you want to use. Click Actions, Associate, and now you can choose an instance here, and we give this a name so it's easy to find. And you can associate. I just want to say that if you ever reassociate, if you ever, change what this is pointing to, all you have to do is just click this and then it's the same thing. But this is the first time we're associating this static IP. AWS calls them elastic IP addresses, but they're static IP addresses because they don't change. And so that should be good. It should be done. It says associated. So I'm going to go back now. Instances. Okay, so this one here right now is the same as the elastic IP that we just set up, or it should be anyway, if you did it correctly. So I'll just hit enter and nothing's going to come up because we haven't done anything. It's just an Ubuntu computer. It's not serving HTML or anything like that. So what I'm going to want to do, I'm just going to cd into my home directory here. And if you don't have it already, you should make a SSH, or people often do .ssh directory to handle all this stuff, but mine is just SSH. I've got a bunch of stuff in here already. So to do this with WSL, we can open the file explorer here. This is really useful. And I'm just going to drag in this key that we had. When you do that with WSL, for some reason it leaves it there, so I'm just going to delete it from here. Okay, so now we have this key. So what we can do is just SSH I and the name of the key, AKD, and I don't know why it copies in this zone identifier. I think you can delete it, but whatever. And then Ubuntu is the username at, right click to paste in that static IP address and enter. Type in yes, enter, and didn't work. Oh yeah. One more thing I forgot to do. We just need to chmod 400 this key, okay? It wants the permissions to be something secure. Now we SSH in, and we're SSH'd into the server. Now that we're SSH'd into the server, the first thing I'm going to want to do is to install Node.js. But actually, I probably want to just do sudo apt update here. Now that's going to update the list of packages for Ubuntu. And then I'll do an upgrade just to make sure that things are up to date. So here, upgrade, enter. Yes. Now I'm going to do sudo apt install Node.js. Enter. Okay, and that does not install npm, so I'm also going to install npm, enter. That's the package manager for Node. Okay, so now I've installed npm, and we could just go directly into getting that app that I showed you working with Nginx and all that. But I think it makes sense to just do a common sense little test that Node.js is working before we start doing Nginx combined with this more serious WebSockets app. It's good to just start with something simple to make sure that things are working the way that they should be. So I'm here in the home directory on my server, and I'm just going to make this hello.js, and I'll put a link to this tutorial in the description. It is for Ubuntu 18 while I'm on Ubuntu 20, but it was fine. I didn't have any problems. So I'm going to copy this and make sure I'm in insert mode if you're using Vim. If this is complicated for you, you could use Nano if you're not familiar with Vim. Okay, now I'm just going to do node hello.js, and this will run locally on the server, okay, but we cannot access that from the web. There's nothing that is making this accessible outside of the server. So what I need to do to check that this works is I actually need to SSH into the server again. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And let's see, it's in the history here, so just SSH again, that's fine. And from within the server, I can do a little curl here, like it says, localhost. We did this on port 3000, enter. We get a hello world there. So that's good enough for me. This little Node.js app worked. I'm going to try to exit out of that with Control C. So now we've tested that Node works. on this remote server. It does. This tutorial talks about installing this thing called PM2. This is just a quality of life thing. I skipped this part, so you might want to come back and read this and think about if you want to do that, but personally I'm skipping it. I think that you might get some security benefits by using something like Nginx. Basically, if you're just using your Node.js app for the server, any mistakes that you make could create something that could be exploited and your server could be hacked. So that's what it says here. Any potential bug in your app is a directly exploitable bug on the internet. Some people are justifiably not comfortable with this. And that's true for me as well. Now, if I were more experienced with Node.js, maybe it would be fine. I would rely on the http.server module and, you know, I wouldn't make mistakes or something, but I'm not that. So I'm going to use Nginx, and that is what I followed this tutorial. Now this tutorial goes into setting up Nginx. Now this tutorial actually has a prerequisite, so it kind of goes to another tutorial here, and we've already done a few of these prerequisites. Well, actually just the first two. And so we need to install Nginx, and I already have this up actually. It's I mean, just installing it with the package manager is straightforward, but there's some configuration stuff that we're going to want to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is just sudo apt install Nginx, because we already did the update there. Enter. We can skip the adjusting the firewall stuff because with AWS we're doing security configurations already, and we don't need to bother with this. So after you install Nginx, it actually starts up automatically. So if I simply open up a new tab and go to the IP address, make sure it's HTTP and not HTTPS, because we haven't set up SSL that would allow HTTPS. But yeah, it says welcome to Nginx. So the server is working. We could, of course, at any time verify that. Sudo systemctl status Nginx will tell us that. So this tutorial here, you don't need to do this part about the IP address. It gets your IP and all that, but we know our IP. But it does talk about some of the stuff with systemd and how you could use it to, it talks about it here, you know, how to start and stop and check the status, reload, all this stuff here. So if you're not familiar with systemd yet, maybe check this information. So now I'm going to show you an optional part of this tutorial, which is that we are going to associate a domain name with the instance that we have here. Now, personally, I like to, if I purchase a domain, I like to do that in AWS because it's a little easier. But I have done it before where you use something else, like there's GoDaddy and there's a bunch of websites for buying domains. But if you've done that, if you could leave a comment in the video if you want me to show how to do that with something else. But I'm just going to stick with AWS for now. And what AWS, the service that they have is called Route 53. I don't see where it is. We can just search at the top for Route 53. Click on that. And I'm not going to show you how to buy a new one. It's not hard, but if you want to find out, maybe look for a different tutorial. So once you have it, it'll be over there in domains, but we can just click on hosted zones. Now I already did this for Kana quiz. That's what I did today. But now let's show how it works for Kotoba quiz. This is another one of my domains that I've just been sitting on. Okay, and this is what it looks like for me, but I'm going to create a new record here, and I just put in my IP here, obviously without that. Okay, and that's it, create. It's really that easy. But you're going to want also the same thing, just with a www in front. Okay, so you can type in the www dot or not type it in, because people do both, I think. At least I do both. Actually, I usually don't type it in. But anyway, some people type it in, so to create. Now, this usually takes a minute or two to propagate through the domain system or whatever. So now we'll take this and we'll try to access it. It's too soon yet, but it actually already propagated. So AWS is super fast. Yeah, so now I've associated this domain name with the instance. Okay, so I'm back to the Nginx instructions that I'm following, and here they talk about a domain name. So you could use the domain name that you set up, or I'm going to do it just with the IP address. So I'm going to sudo make directory p var www slash, I'm going to paste in the domain name /html. So I'm going to follow these instructions just using, sorry, I said domain name, but I'm going to do the IP address. You should use your domain name if you have a domain name. So again, there's just several instructions that you just need to copy, paste, and change to match your situation. Enter, copy, paste, change. Okay, now there's this one, use nano if you're comfortable with nano. I'm going to sudo vim. Actually, I don't need to sudo, I guess. Okay, whatever. Vim var www slash /html slash index.html, and we're going to just copy paste this in. Right click. You can actually even just, you can write whatever you want if it's valid HTML there. So instead of modifying the configuration file directly, what we do is we make a file here in the sites available directory. I'm going to do the IP address. Again, I'm just copying pasting in here, but we do need to change a few things. So they've got, again, just do whatever you can to match what you're doing. And here too, make sure you get rid of all the example.com things. If you have your domain, do the domain name and then also the one with the www. But if we're doing the IP address, we don't need both. Okay, and the way that Nginx works is that basically you start by setting up kind of some configuration details in the sites available directory. And it doesn't actually, it's kind of like a staging area. And then later, once you have things the way you want it, then you link in to the sites enabled directory. So we're just going to do that. All right, now I honestly don't know what this is about, a hash bucket memory problem, but I'm just going to follow the instructions and I'm going to edit this file. So we go down to this server names, hash bucket size 64, and we just uncomment it and save it. Now I'm going to do sudo nginx t like this, and it just checks that the syntax for the stuff that we wrote is correct. And now we can restart the server. Enter. Go here, enter, and now we've got this new thing. Okay, now that we've got Nginx working with our own custom server block, now I'm going to go back to the original tutorial here and to this part, okay, because it said in the prerequisite tutorial, so we had to go back there. So we're going to open this file that we created and change some of it to this. Okay, so I'm going to edit that file right there, and it's this location part. So I'm just going to get rid of this and copy paste this in. Make sure you don't do something silly like copying these little dots. Doesn't make any sense. Right click. Okay, and then, so now that that's done, I'm just going to save that. Again, Nginx T to check the syntax of everything. Do a sudo systemctl restart Nginx. And all right, what I need to do next is just to cd into my home directory and actually run the app. So node hello.js, enter, and we will go to here. Just ignore that, it works. Okay, that's the hello world from the original app. So we've got Nginx working with Node.js. That's great. Now we need to go back to the original point of this video, which is to get WebSockets, that little WebSockets app working remotely. So I'm just going to do Control-C to stop this one. I'm going to go once again to their GitHub here, and we're going to curl this stuff again. So index.html, raw, copy this. Make sure you're in the home directory there, although it doesn't matter that much, but let's just do it there. Actually, no, I'm going to make a directory. So we'll just call it app. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so curl and I'm gonna paste in the URL index.html, enter. Next one, raw index.js, so curl index.js, and again I'm going to do npm init y for yes, npm install websocket. Yeah, I'm still recording. npm install express. Now there are a couple of things we need to edit in our app in order to make this work on the remote server. So I'm going to first take a look at the index.js here, and of course you might want to be using version control and have done git and all that first, so do that if you want to do that. I highly recommend it. In fact, just in case there's newbies, we'll just do a git init, git add all, git commit, oh god, it's nano, initial commit. You can describe it more. In Nano, it's Control O to write, enter, Control X to exit. It's there. Yeah, so now we have, before we make changes, we really should do that. You also might want to push that to GitHub. That is for make it a private repo because it's not our code originally. And also that's not part of this video tutorial. But I highly recommend you figure out how to do that. Of course, you could use GitLab, whatever, Bitbucket. We're going to change that to, so 3000 there. And we'll go back right here, make this 3000. Okay, now I'm going to do node index.js. And just in case, I'm not sure if it's necessary or not, but I've SSH'd in on another terminal, and I'm just going to restart Nginx here as well. Sudo systemctl restart Nginx. All right, so again, I'm gonna type in my IP address, and there we go. We've got this going on now. So let's hit new game here. Look at this. Join it. Now the software is a little buggy. You might have to do this a couple times before it works. I don't know where the bugs are. That was in the tutorial that I used, but here we've got it on 2 different browsers. If I click there, it does show up here this time. I don't know, it doesn't work every time for some reason. I don't know why, but look at that, it's working. And you can try this with different computers. You can try this with your friend or whatever, and yeah, hopefully it works. So we've got it working. WebSockets on a remote server. Next thing you might want to do is to set up SSL. There's a lot of videos online about that. So leave a comment if you want me to make a video because it can be confusing. But yeah, that's the next thing that you might want to do. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If it helped you, do leave a like. It does help my channel. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. So thank you very much. Bye.